Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I'll take any specific questions you guys want to ask. We can start talking about those, or we'll start talking about a little bit more on the literacy narrative, because I know everybody's still a little unsure how to go about it. The Malcolm X quiz was due last night, so if you have not taken it, please take it as soon as possible. We will be discussing it on Monday as one of the examples of a literacy narrative. All right, let's take a look at some tips. Let's see. The rough draft is due on Monday. So for breaking down the literacy narrative, you're going to start with a hook. We talked about hooks, right? So it could be a quote from your favorite teacher who influenced, how you feel about writing. It could be the start of a story about discovering a book series, right? It could be about your first session with speech pathology, something like that, depending on what you're going to write about. Could be a song that you listen to over and over again, and why the lyrics mean so much. So you want to have something to say about how language influences your life. That's going to be your thesis, the main point. And then you can make sure you play up, remember selection of detail? You play up everything in the essay that helps make your point, all your examples, right? So you have a short thesis that might say, Harry Potter helped me discover the magic of reading. That's a little simplistic, but you get where I'm going with it. And then your essay would have to show us how that happened in your life. Okay. So through the rest of the story, you're going to use stories and descriptions to explore and show us what you told us with your thesis. Okay. Any challenges that you faced, how you've overcome them. Good stories have conflict, right? So here's one. Words were like a puzzle that I couldn't quite solve. Listening to the teachers read the jumbled up letters on the page, I was fascinated by how they could easily bring the pictures to life. The first day that I truly became literate, it was like another world was opening up. My fingers couldn't find books fast enough. My relationship with words has been a powerful, fantastical, and even sometimes disastrous journey. Okay. Then we assume she's going to show us all of those things, right? Questions so far? I'm going to put this link into the chat, so if you want to look at it again and explore more, there are other famous examples. We're going to talk about the Malcolm X example with everybody in class on Monday, and how he explains how significant it was in his life, his journey to literacy. The Bird by Bird book we've already read, of course, that is a literacy one. It's about writing, right? About how drafting and her relationship with it in the language. So the rough draft is 3 pages. Here's a link. Let's look at the assignment. So here's the basic information, 3 double-spaced pages, around 750 to 1,000 words. Okay, font, style. The template that I gave you guys yesterday, the MLA template, that's also available under content on Brightspace if you want to download it there. Has all the formatting already. You just need to fill in your information and save it for future papers. How's everybody feeling about writing the paper? Good. That is an excellent question, Jeannie. That is something I can help you with, especially in the draft. Once you get like the basics outlined. Do you have a topic that you're thinking about doing, and we can explore it some more?
I was thinking about like doing music and like, I don't know, like what it makes me feel.
Okay, so here's one way you could organize it by emotion. These are just ideas. I'm just spitballing here with you. So you could talk about music that reflects your happy emotions, that, romantic, angry, sad. You follow me? And then for each one, you would give us an example.
Okay.
That's one way, but if you don't like that, you don't have to. You could do like chronologically. What do we talk about as one way to organize it, right? What did you like to listen to when you were little versus how your musical tastes have grown over time and what they reflect about you?
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, this is helpful to everybody, I'm hoping. Um, the main way you're going to develop it is through specific examples. Like, I want to see if you do music, like, I want to see the song lyrics, and then I want you to explain how they, make you feel or how they help you get your emotions out. So, descriptions and examples of how you'll do it. Those are the content we need. And many people struggle with this. Is one example enough usually? Usually not. You guys usually ask me for more than one example, right? On Monday, we'll talk about the Malcolm X, and then I have another one I'm going to, student one that I may share with you guys if I get permission from the author. What else does everybody think about? So music is one of them. Earlier when we did the brainstorming for this paper, you were kind of focused on all of the ideas that you had about language and writing. I'd like you now, I'd like you to focus on one way, because it's always better to start small. You can always expand on it later, but you can't really get in depth to a topic if you're talking about all, because language affects us all in a lot of ways. I mean, you can focus it by choosing like 2 or 3, but it's a very short paper. So I'd rather you choose one way and then give me lots of examples and descriptions. That's a good question. Start with a small focus. I can help you come up with examples and descriptions that really get us in depth into how you feel about it. Let's take 10 minutes and brainstorm on just one idea you're thinking about writing about. Before, the brainstorming was kind of like on everything that language and writing, touches in your life. Now just take one of those ideas and sort of do a focused brainstorming. Okay, so take an idea you're thinking about writing about. And brainstorm for 10 minutes. Your choice of method. You can do a zero draft, you can do clustering, you can do a list. See what you know about it. Okay. How was it? Does it look like it can be a viable topic? Sometimes they aren't. You brainstorm about something and it's just you're not getting a lot out of it, then it might be better to switch to another topic, right? If you're still struggling for a topic, one of the things you can do is divide it up into different areas to brainstorm about. So ask yourself questions. How does reading affect? Same thing. How does writing? How does listening to songs? How does speaking with people? Anybody afraid of public speaking? That's language. So if any of those topics, how fictional media has influenced you, yeah, as long as you focus on the language part of it, like, I mean, you could do a whole thing of movie quotes, like, do you have like a movie quote for every situation? I know some people who do, or some interesting situations. So yeah, it's like something mesmerizing about a television show or a movie. You could break down why the language makes it, so compelling. Above all, I beg you, do something you're interested in writing about. Because if you don't, first you torture you when you write the paper, and then you torture me when I read the paper, and it's obvious you could care less about what you're writing. Jason, when you're saying ages, do you mean like you're tracing through your life how different TV shows affected you, or can you give me a little more? Oh, pages. Okay, it's basically 3 pages. All right. Any other questions? You guys are asking good ones. Hopefully, it will help everybody sort of. Writing can be a squidgy process, meaning it's not like math. I mean, math can be squidgy too, but like the basics are 2 and 2 are 4. With writing, you're not always sure what you want to say until you've got some thoughts down on paper, and that can be a very uncomfortable place. So embrace the discomfort. You're probably right where you need to be. Um, you just kind of need to work out what you want to say about language, and it's going to affect everyone's life slightly differently. You know what I mean? So I can't give you like one topic that's going to cover everyone. I can give you some suggestions. Sometimes you just have to start thinking, what does this mean in my life? What do I want to say about it? And that can be uncomfortable if you're not sure. It's okay. I do want to review conclusion techniques, which we started talking about yesterday. So, Orlando, what is one conclusion technique? Yes. Well, that's also an intro technique. But you can sort of ask a rhetorical question at the end, like, what will hurricanes look like in 10 years if we don't address global warming? So, and that kind of fits into speculate on the future, but that's one way to do it. What's another intro technique? You keep recap the first paragraph. I'd say refer to the first paragraph to whatever you referred to. Whether it's ending a story or referring back to a description or a question. There's also telling us what you want us to do about this now that you've told us about this topic. Do you want us to vote for this or boycott that or recycle, or what is it that you want us to take an action to do, right? So bring it full circle by referring back to the beginning, speculate on the future, right? So let's look at the list. And then a lot of those intro techniques that we talked about end with a quote, end with that question. Remind them of the common values on both sides of your argument. We both care about educating children, so you should listen to my ideas and consider them for, for educational opportunities. So let's look at an example. Let's do this one. So here's a story on the BBC about the mystery of why some vaccines are doubly beneficial. So at the beginning, Peter Abbey shakes his head as though he still can't believe it. That was the start of it, really. Something very strange happened, he says. So remember the introduction technique of using a quote? That's kind of intriguing. I want to know what strange happened, right? So basically he's talking about how exploring different vaccines, and they actually are beneficial beyond what people thought they might be. So they're made for a specific condition or disease like polio. They're working on the COVID vaccine, right? But they've also found that some vaccines have wider protection. Like there's a little bit of data, just a little, that says if you've had a tuberculosis vaccination, it may be protective against COVID as well, because it's kind of in that same family, I guess, of viruses, So here they found that a year after vaccinations, that 50% of the kids were less likely to die, if they had been vaccinated. Okay. So this is the beginning, right? He starts with a quote to tease that there's something interesting. So let's look at how he ends it. Okay. So they're talking about the different benefits and why maybe it's beneficial beyond the specific, condition that the vaccination is for. Because we've almost eradicated polio. Okay. So now we have his concluding paragraph. While the anti-vaccine movement has been falsely stirring up suspicion against vaccines for decades, it seems that ironically the only secret vaccines have been hiding is that they're better for us than anyone ever imagined. Perhaps it's time we realize their full potential before it's too late. What kind of conclusion technique you think he's using here? Perhaps it's time we realize their full potential before it's too late. So is he speculating on the future? Maybe a little. I think there's one that fits better. Is he referring back to the beginning? He's not really referring back to the quote, right? Is he using another intro technique? Not really. What are we left with? Now that he's told us about all the potential benefits of this vaccine, what should we do? What do you think, Alexa?
I really don't know.
Okay. Well, basically, if we use all the information you gave us in the essay, right, that vaccines have wider benefits than just, protecting you from polio or perhaps protecting us from COVID, that, like, there is some speculation that a COVID vaccine would protect us from future COVID, right? Things that aren't exactly the same. So he's suggesting that we basically, explore the full potential of vaccines in the future, right? So kind of suggesting a course of action, maybe combined with a little speculating on the future, right?
Yes.
So suggest a course of action, really explore all the benefits, right? We need to realize their full potential before it's too late. Okay. So one thing, a nice trick, if you don't have a lot of reading time or you're having trouble figuring out what a specific essay or piece of writing means, is to look at the introduction and to look at the conclusion. Because generally they will, besides introducing the topics in the introduction, usually have the main idea, right? And at the end, they will kind of sum everything up. So at the beginning, he started with the story of how specifically they found out vaccines were the measles vaccine was more beneficial than they thought, right? And then he ends with they have, he gave us a bunch of examples in the essay. And then he ends with, maybe we really need to explore the full potential, because this is likely not to be the last pandemic we have, I'm sorry to say. As the world is more mobile and diseases travel faster. So it's better to be prepared. All right. We have just a little over 2 minutes left for any last questions. So after this ends, spend the last 10 minutes working on your Khan Academy exercises, or if you need to talk to me about your paper draft, I will start a new session as soon as cuts us off here. So I'll be here for consultation, or you can work on your exercises. Any last words? All right, then I will see you on Monday. Otherwise, I'll see you in a few minutes.